In about an hour, it's going to be precisely a week since my father passed away. Now this message is to tell you guys thank you. Thank you very much for being there for me and for my family. And also hug your loved ones tight. June 14th, my father was told he had cancer, terminal cancer. July 14th, precisely 30 days later, for you guys can't do the math in your head, I did it for you. He was home with God. So it didn't take very long at all. The way it happened, I'm pretty comfortable with. He didn't suffer, not physically. I don't think he suffered mentally either. He wasn't excited, but he was prepared to pass away. Seeing how we had that month in between he was told and ultimately passed, we had time to talk, had time to spend with him, we had time to clear up some issues. He being a Catholic, me being a Protestant, we had to talk about that. There's a lot of things I don't like about the Catholic faith, but we did come to an agreement on the essentials. And as I said to a buddy of mine at the funeral, I said, we're talking about a hot dog. You like mustard on your hot dog, I like ketchup. But ultimately, it's still a hot dog. Now, when I get to heaven, and God says, you couldn't use another allergy than me being a hot dog, I have to deal with that. We're going to deal with that. But, so that got cleared up. And my father was funny to the very end. I mean, to the very end. A lot of you guys know me and think I'm very funny. When we get somewhere, I'm goofy. But I'm like stubbing your toe on a coffee table compared to him. He has always had something to say with very few words. And it was just powerful, and it was just funny. And it brought laughter out of everybody. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you're going through. In the hospital. Some of you heard of the ice chip story. It was the day after his birthday, and there was 4 nurses in there, and some of you guys heard about what he said then about all the girls showing up for his birthday party. And keep in mind, he wasn't feeling very well. He had a bunch of needles in him, and wires and pipes, and there was blood, and there was fluids and IVs, and it was cold. He didn't even have a pillow for his head. And he looks over at the 4 nurses and says, look at all these beautiful women that showed up for my birthday party. And you could barely hear him. He had a mask on, but he was just funny to the very end. And I won't even share with you about when he had to go pee and I had to hold the bottle and all that thing. That was just hilarious. That was hilarious. So I got great memories. I'm blessed to have had a good father, a great father, as a matter of fact, for all these years. I didn't want to do funerals. I've only been to one funeral ever, and what I remember, it was just awful, crying and just terrible. I wanted to give my peace or give my goodbyes in the hospital. Dad passes, all right, let's bury him, let's get this over with. It worked out, we had to have 2 funerals. We had a Protestant funeral up north Florida, we had a Catholic funeral down in South Florida. Come to find out, those were great. Those helped with the healing process. I saw family I haven't seen for 35 years. And we agreed that we're not going to let that happen again. We're going to have some kind of family reunion, you know, regularly, every 2 years or so. And nobody had anything bad to say about him. Not that you're going to go to a funeral and say anything bad, but so many people were crying over him and cared for him and loved him and going to miss him. That was nice to see. Now, did I cry? I didn't cry. I felt a little guilty about that for a while. My dad taught me a man doesn't cry. So not that there's any shame to it or anything, but I remember him teaching me that. I never saw him cry at my grandmother's funeral, and I asked around even after my grandfather's funeral. He didn't cry then. Probably cried in private, which is perfectly fine. You can cry in public if you want. But I remember my dad telling me, right or wrong, he told me, man doesn't cry, so I didn't. You know, I even felt a little guilty. Maybe I should have. But I'm overwhelmed with the gratitude, and I'm overwhelmed with all these great, great stories. You know. My dad, let me tell you that story. When he wants to sell something, he's a pushover, right? He feels sorry for people. He has compassion for people. He wanted to sell a truck once, and the guy shows up with 2 little kids, and they were barefoot. And the guy's like, oh, I'm barely getting money together. I need this truck for work. And my dad like sold it for like half price. He was always doing stuff like that. He never stuck to his guns. We kept telling my dad, they got over on you. He probably took off the kids' shoes before they got there. And so my dad wanted to sell one of his Cadillacs once, and the guy shows up, he has no legs. We're like, what are you going to do? Give it to him for free? This was shortly after my grandfather died, and everybody was still grieving. My dad puts his Cadillac up for sale. The guy shows up with no legs. He snatches a wheelchair out of the back of his car, hops over to it, and wheels over to the Cadillac, and he's checking it out, right? So my dad says, you know, how this is going to work? It's not set up for somebody with no legs. The guy says, oh, don't worry about it. The guy goes to his trunk, takes out 2 sticks and a roll of duct tape, hops off the wheelchair, duct tapes these sticks to the pedals, one to the brake, one to the gas, hops up into the Cadillac. He fires up the Cadillac, tells my dad, get in, let's go for a ride. So my dad sees this guy in there with sticks up here to his chest, and he's like, rum, rum, rum. He tests the brake, and he goes, we're good to go, get in. My dad goes, you know what? Why don't you go ahead, test drive it, take your time. The guy says, all right. He says, but keep an eye on my wheelchair. You know, it's an expensive wheelchair. And the guy takes off and leaves his wheelchair right there. So my grandmother, who hasn't as much as cracked a smile or anything, since my grandfather passed, you know, earlier that year, she looks at my dad and says, oh, you know that guy? And my dad says, no, I don't know him. Never met him before in my life. So she says, and you let him take your car just like that? What if he doesn't come back? And my dad says, well, I jump in the wheelchair and go look for him. What do you think I'm going to do? And man, she was just busting up, dying, laughing, you know. Ultimately, the guy came back and my dad sold the car and everything was fine. But my dad always had a comment like that, no matter where he was. He was just great. It was just funny. So that's how we're going to remember him. Remember somebody who was always compassionate about people, always wanted to help people. He wanted to help people too much, as a matter of fact. We're like, Dad, you got to hold back. He'll give you the shirt off his back. I mean, literally give you shirt off his back. And all you guys that have emailed and texted me and called me and everything, most of you guys are from Facebook. I don't even know. Some of you have lost your father. You know exactly how I feel. I know exactly how you feel. And thank you for the words of encouragement. Thank you for being there. And even though my father was lost, there's a lot of good to this. There was a lot of love going on and a lot of support going on. And I don't care who you are. That gives you the warm feeling right there in the center of your heart right there. So thank you. I'm back in California. I've taken the next couple of days. I haven't worked, man. And all of last month, I haven't worked more than like 6 days or so. And well, that's the beauty of being your own boss and having a little bit of money put away. I can do that and take care of business. I'll be back to work Monday. We're going to shine cars. We're going to glorify God. And we're going to remember my dad. All right? Much love to you. And again, thank you very much.